Hi, welcome to the ASATA live webinar. We're going to be talking transformation and its positive impact on our sector today. Some of you will know that we have launched a business incubator as ASATA in cooperation with Sigma International, which will enable our members to earn enterprise development points and supplier development points towards our B-BBEE scorecards. I'm not an expert in this area, so joining me today to discuss this is Akash Singh, who's the co-founder and the CEO of Sigma International. But before we dive in, I would like to hand over to our CEO, Otto de Vries, for a quick introduction. Otto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nats, and good morning, everyone. Nice to have a whole lot of you on today's webinar and to see that there is a level of interest with regards to what ASATA has just launched on the 10th of March, namely a non-profit business incubator for our members to further strengthen and streamline the tourism sector's BEE transformation agenda, and hopefully in an impactful manner as we recover from COVID. The incubator has been established as a non-profit arm of the association and will enable our members to earn enterprise development and supplier development points towards their scorecard, but more importantly, it will drive a transformation through the value chain by ensuring that having a consolidated incubator model within the association's structures, we can get a much better aggregated investment spend across startups and SME businesses who are looking to operate and trade with you, the members, and of course our customers. So very, very excited about this and very pleased to have on board Akash and Sigma International, who we've been carefully working with together over the past 6 months to prepare and launch this incubator. We are confident that it's going to make a substantial difference in the industry and our transformation strategy going forward. And as we said, because it's a consolidated process, the incubator can sponsor up to as much as 60 beneficiaries per annum. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand you over to Akash, whose organization Sigma will be running this on our behalf, to give you a full overview and an insight of exactly what this means, how it will work, where are the opportunities, and what are the next steps for you as members to get actively involved. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Akash. And thank you, Akash, and thank you for joining us.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Osher. Thanks, Natalia. So, colleagues, I'm just going to run you by a few slides and just explain to you how it would work, as Otto has suggested, and why this is special, or more importantly, not special, why this is impactful for whoever gets onboarded or participates into this particular ecosystem. And it's not only about providing enterprise and supply development points. That we would do using our ISO accredited incubator, but the ecosystem that we're building, and I'll share some examples of other incubators we're managing at the moment, is just globally unmatched in terms of how individual people, instead of doing enterprise development for one company, now they're doing enterprise development for one company, but be linked to 5 or 6 listed companies all at one go because they're in a common space attached to it. So, colleagues, I'm just going to quickly flip through a presentation. Are we able to see this, Natalia?
We are indeed.
Cool, excellent. So, we're going to just talk around as everything in a little bit more detail as to what Otto is doing. But I think the true DNA of this incubator is around impact. How can we do it impactfully? How can we do it boldly? So we took the idea, and Otto is absolutely right. It's been about 6 months of planning and engagement. And we've put together its very own non-profit organization. So, you know, for members that contribute and want to invest and be part of it, they actually give it to a non-profit a company, which ASATA and its directors are actually trustees or directors. It does not come to Sigma International. They're just private labeling and using our particular model. So in a nutshell, colleagues, what it means is ASATA members who have normally would want to do enterprise and supply development, they will be given the opportunity to sponsor a business for a year of support and operational support, not just training, more operational support. And you'll see what when we talk about operational support, we do the management accounts for these companies. We develop their websites. We would process their payroll if required. We will give them data to operate. We'll make them, and in addition to the linkages and partnerships. So to sponsor one business, it will cost an investment of 95,000. If this amount is too big, and if some of our other incubators, we break them up into increments or into 2 or 3 to accommodate more medium-sized businesses in terms of their obligation. So you'll know your obligation in terms of ED and ST. It'll be 1 or 2% or 3% in some cases in terms of your net profit after tax. So that's what it costs for members of ASATA to participate if they want to. And they can still suggest their own incubatees or companies. We're not asking anyone for us to recommend incubatees. We do that sometimes and make a call to the broader ASATA members. But think of this as you're a member of ASATA. You have to do enterprise and supplier development. You have this smaller business or supplier that you're working with, and you're sending him to this school or incubator school. So instead of public school, you're paying for and you're getting enterprise and supplier development points by sending him to this Model C school, if you want to think of it in a different way. So I think the rest of it, we've kind of explained what we're doing. I think importantly, this incubator is ISO 9001 accredited, so it's very quality assured. And very, very important, colleagues, is this ecosystem that we're creating. So I'll share with you in another one of our incubatees. You know, we're hosting incubatees for Protea Marriott, but those 4 or 5 incubatees are now being matched to Piermont Hotels and Resorts. They're now being matched to City Lodge Hotel Group. They're now being matched to Bidvest Travel Services, Lydia and her team. So what this allows us to do is to look at who in ASATA is working. How can we make that person or company that you have sponsored, how can we make his business linkages more impactful and beyond just your company? And I think that's the trick into it. So there's various reasons. We give you the enterprise and supply development point. It's an ISO accredited incubator. And I think it's all about impact and linkages. And colleagues, please don't be scared. We do an end-to-end solution in implementing this particular program. So the obligation, I know many of you have limited staff, is just about very, very limited, or involvement attached to it. So we've done this model for various other organizations. We've done about 4, actually, I think, for the Department of Tourism. They endorsed this model. We're doing one live in Limpopo for Anglo-American for 50 businesses. I'll share with you some, we've done the exact member model for SATSA. And I'll share with you who's invested in it as an example. And all we're doing is we're sending them to a different technical school for tourism or travel in this case. And what we're doing is we're capturing the evidence and giving it to your BBEE verification agency attached to it. So that's it in a very, very nutshell. Obviously, the linkages to bigger partners, and I'll share a few with you colleagues, is it makes it much, much more compelling. So a funder or a SATA member would invest 95,000 Rand excluding that. But the value this business gets is typically anything from 250,000 to 500,000 worth of support. Because we don't only do support in terms of for that collateral, we infuse in about 25 global partners of Sigma that would add on. And I'll share some examples with you as we go on to. So the linkages, and you see one of them, what we're planning to do is also to link this particular incubator with universities. Otto and I were having a discussion. And how can we make it an end-to-end kind of solution attached to it? So an example of another incubator, where it's a member-based incubator for SATSA, we have close on to, I think we just have about 40 incubators that are sponsored. But they're sponsored by some of the most trusted brands. I mean, Roger Foster is one of your members, has invested in the other incubator, Bidvest Travel Services, Europe Car, New Frontiers, Protea Marriott. So we know the model is working. It's been running for about 6 to 9 months for these guys, and we know it's very, very impactful attached to it. So you may want to ask who we are that's doing this on behalf of your membership. And I belong to a company. I'm one of the co-founders of Sigma International. It's a 20-year-old impact company. And, a couple of things that are unique about us. One is that we're very multidisciplinary team. So you don't only get accountants or bean counters doing enterprise development. I'm a CA for 25 years, qualified, but you have people that are scientists and engineers that work in our incubator, together with the normal desktop publishers that are developing and implementing websites and marketing attached to it. So unique skill sets, traditionally different, and our partner network that makes it truly, truly different. So we've done this across the length and breadth of South Africa. During COVID, colleagues, we've supported about 188 beneficiaries. 180 are still alive in the most rural parts of the country, and supported 2,400 jobs. And how we do this is we have dedicated staff that would focus on these. I think we're planning to get between 40 to 60. That's our sweet spot in about 12 to 18 months in this particular incubator. And companies will join at different times because they have different financial year ends, but they'll be supported by local incubator staff, central staff like our accountants and bookkeepers that sit centralized, or our desktop publishing team, and then a whole lot of partners, colleagues. And most of this incubation is, think of it going into a restaurant. And this is the menu we would look at when we diagnose these businesses upfront. So whoever comes in and gets approved and paid for, we would look at to say, okay, can we do a website? Do they need a website? Maybe they need an enhancement. Maybe they need their payroll done and their IRP 6 recons twice a year. And so it's very, very much custom around your business. We're not going to be asking you to go for a general customer service training course for a day and give you a meal and sign the register. It's totally different. It's needs-based incubation infused with a bit of partnership. So this is our partner dashboard as an example. And what that means is, if I may take a few steps back, this is the type of interventions we would support and fix and grow and strengthen the business. But then we'll have our partners, colleagues, that would come in and add additional. So SAICA, for example, gives us, many financial mentorship. So many of our incubators get coached. We prepare the management accounts, we do the payroll, and SAICA gives us a qualified CA for 6 months for some of our incubators. So the beneficiary organization gets a qualified chartered accountant to mentor them for 6 months. Now, that's probably worth 50,000, in terms of time, effort, energy, and costs attached to it. So many of these partnerships is what drives and makes these impact much more higher. So our beneficiaries vary. Because this is enterprise and supply development, we're expecting different suppliers of the travel services industry to also join. We worked with a numerous amount of businesses, both the traditional tourism businesses that they sponsor, or sometimes suppliers. Like in one of our incubators, we've got like about 6 waste companies that we are incubating at the moment. So it's very, very much customized and aligned to that ecosystem. So we're very, very proud to say that we embrace informality and emergingness. And many of our incubators, colleagues, have got like some unusual stories. So, and I'll just share one of two of you, that you might relate to. And the lady on the top 3, she's sitting in, and this is not confidential, she's sitting in the SATSA incubator, and she's been sponsored by one of the hotels, and her name is Anna Muraka. And she's a supplier. Now, think of it, in this incubator, we can have members or businesses in the travel services, or we can have suppliers. And she's a supplier in a tourism incubator. And she was a seamstress. She lost a job because of the clothing sector industry becoming less. But then she started sewing cushions and curtains, and she started selling to lodges and companies, and then eventually City Lodge started buying her stuff from her. But that's not the uniqueness in her. Anna has a deaf and dumb son that's disabled, and when he tried to complete matric and try to access the economy, he failed. But Anna taught him how to sew, taught him how to upholster, and now him and one other person is full-time employed in her business, in a dying industry. She's become a supplier. So there's many, many, many of these stories in our incubator. The lady on the bottom right-hand side, she was an incubator in Northern Cape. One of our better stories, Auntie Kura, the lady with the hands wrapped up. And Auntie Kura belonged to our incubator in the Northern Cape. And she was one of these ladies that joined tourism after working in building the road, you know, the most belittling job as a lady, the orange overall and you waving the flag. And she saved all her money and she opened up a tourism business. And in that, she did different services, a little bit of transport, and also she did some cooking, roosterbrood, and she built a kombase or office and a kombase and a thatched kitchen on the R266 from Uppington to Redfontaine on community land. And yet she joined our incubator in Uppington. But, you know, we helped her with compliance and bookkeeping, but what she really needed was solar because there's no electricity. So one of our partners, the Dutch government, has 1,400 experts, and they made available a solar coach. And in May of 2020, in the hard lockdown, I sat in South Africa, Auntie Kura sat in Northern Cape. We taught her how to use Zoom, and we had a solar coach in the Netherlands, Hague. And in August of that year, we assessed her. We managed to get funding. We bought a 4-panel, 3 kVA inverter, and now she switches the lights on, and you have dinner in the dark for tourists traveling on that R266 to the Transfrontier Kalahari Frontier Park. Or she's got now a freezer, which she offers ice cold water and cold drinks. So we've doubled her turnover because by linking her not only to doing business support, but to actual partner. So colleagues, I think I've spoken, and I'll maybe Otto and I will spend some time maybe taking some questions, but I think we've mentioned that this is fully tax deductible. So there's no limitations in terms of Section 18A restrictions in terms of a donation. This is a provision of services that we're doing. So in terms of the Income Tax Act, this is fully deductible. And what we would do for members, and we've already have commitment from 1 or 2 of ASATA's members, we would typically go and meet with the team, explain how it works, and they would tell us, let's develop a roadmap. And we'll sit with them one-on-one to understand, okay, what is their needs? How much is their compliance? How many seats will they want? How many businesses do they want to assist? And how many is enterprise? How many is supplier development? What have they done in the past? Is there any past people that we can still put on the program? And so we design the needs and we put together a roadmap which they want. And every one of these roadmaps are custom made based on what they require and what recognition factor and where's their particular year end. So the action step is, you know, if any of the SATA members are interested, you just let Otto and the team, Hani, know, and we will set up a one-on-one engagement. Take your team through it, make sure it understands how it works so they're comfortable. In some cases, we even meet with the rating agencies in advance to explain how we go about doing it. So it's a very simple model. We've run about 8 to 10 incubators in this model, and we've got about 4 or 5 live at this current moment. And it's working very impactfully, but it's creating a very broader system of partners and linkages that's probably unmatched. It's in a way we're standing at the moment, we're probably doing just the same amount of enterprise and supplier development work and transformation and inclusive work as big as the Department of Tourism in terms of numbers, in terms of the different incubators. Give it 18 months, we're probably going to have 400 to 500 people, and it's probably going to be the biggest enterprise supplier development program across not only South Africa. So I'll stop here, Natalia and Otto. And I don't know, Otto, if you want to add, or I may have left out anything that might have been important, but maybe we can open it up now for a little bit of people understanding and asking questions.
Cool. Thanks so much, Akash. And it really is what you and the team have done, I've seen with other incubators, is nothing short of absolutely phenomenal, considering we have this massive supply chain that feeds into the travel and tourism industry. So it really is a very practical way to get involved. Otto, did you want to add anything before we go to questions?
No, I'm good. I think what would be helpful is just from a question point of view, maybe we can get into some of the detail just in terms of the next steps and actions if they don't come out with the questions. But otherwise, yeah, quite keen to open the floor to our attendees and let them ask the questions.
Well, you guys know the drill. There's a Q&A folder at the bottom of your screen. So if you'd like to add your question into that Q&A folder, I'll pose those questions through to Akash. And we've got one come in already from Ian. Are you able to assist with skills development? Can you opt to only use the supplier development if you already had an ED partner?
Yeah. Can I go first? Can we want to answer one at a time, right, Natalia?
Yeah,
go for it. Yeah. So colleagues, absolutely. So, we have sometimes very specialist skills that we would look at. But when we start a journey for a particular business that has been nominated or recommended, and if they are not recommended, then we'll make a call to the ASATA members to recommend people. If it's a very big ASATA member, we've done it once or twice or thrice before. We get the general managers or the regional managers to nominate people across the country. So it's people they know and work with. So it makes it even more compelling or, close to home. And everyone owns this journey of transformation. So it's not only the CEO recommending A, B, and C. So that's an option. So when these people start, whoever these businesses are, we'd assess what they need. Like, think of it as going to a doctor and you're writing a script. And if they need customized training, risk management, or they need solar enablement coaching, or they need something very, very specific from an accounting standards and, whatever, or they need something from a compliance, occupational health and safety. If it's compelling, we'll make that available from the incubator. So absolutely skills development, but it's needs-based skills development. It may be accredited or maybe not accredited, but whichever is more impactful. We embrace informality, and we have much, much more appetite for training people for impact as opposed for the actual qualification or accredited, in terms of some particular SETA, attached to it. The second one is, if you have an ED partner, absolutely. Do not change anyone, and maybe you can look at it for suppliers. So it's very, very, very flexible, attached to it. But colleagues, I want to share a story with you, and this is not confidential. So I need to share in one of the other incubators. So there's a big company, listed company, from Cape Town, nogal, that used to sponsor a lady, and they used to give all the bed sheets to her to sew laundry bags, and also make clothing for poor schools. Very impactful. So imagine, they had about 55 different hotels, lots of sheets, like thousands of rooms, and that's getting to be converted using this particular business, but lots of them coming back as laundry bags that are embroidered. Great story. They gave that business 2 million Rand 1 year for supplier development. This year, for that 2 million Rand in one of our incubators, they are sponsoring close to 20 different businesses. But one of those businesses in the 20 is this business herself. So instead of her collecting bed sheets from one hotel group for 55 hotels, now we're knocking on the doors of many of hotel groups, and we're collecting from close on to 300 hotels. So we've just, the 2 million Rand that they gave that particular business is now becoming, less impactful than letting her have raw materials from 300 different hotels. So what I'm saying to you, colleagues, is you can exclude someone because you're working with them already. Absolutely. You can include them, and even though you're working with them, send them to this particular school and this particular network as well. I hope I make sense to you. Sure,
Akash, it's just like it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows, hey?
Yeah.
All right.
I gotta tell you something, while we were the colleagues to ask question. I had a big hotel and casino group last week, and I think they got 9 concessionaires, 9 casinos. They dumped their whole SAP procurement file, 5,000 lines of what they bought in the last 12 months. Now they're saying, please analyze and map it to your 4 incubators.
Oh, wow.
Who can we make beneficiaries across our different concerns. So I got a meeting on the 23rd, actually. Shimantha and I have a meeting. One of the ladies, Shimantha's in this audience. Now we're supposed to go and filter and make recommendations for the few hundred. Who can they start consider linking and getting involved? Because they trust these people, because we know them for at least 6 to 18 months before we recommend it. Yeah, so there's some cool stories. But let me under-promise, Otto, and over-deliver in terms of your members, because it's a new journey. Let's start small and let's get their feet wet. Colleagues, cool.
Cool. What qualifies one to be an incubator? I think maybe incubatee is probably the question.
So it varies. It varies. So obviously, because this is on, it depends what funders fund for our incubators. Some might, majority of them do it for enterprise and supply development. So then you have to have an emerging EME, an emerging micro enterprise, which is less than X amount of turnover, or a QSE, and it must be 51% Black owned. But we actually have some white knights that like the work we're doing and that fund any business for spaces. So because they want to make a difference. So a good one of that is Faith Johnson from New Frontiers. She was in one of our incubators, our first incubator, and I was with Faith last week in person. And when she joined, she just wanted to make a difference. She doesn't want us to give her enterprise supplier development reports. So there's a mixture. There are some people that would sponsor just because they want to make a difference and contribute to this journey of growing small to medium businesses. There are lots of people that want to get enterprise and supplier development points. And in that lens, if you apply, you've got to be an emerging or a qualifying small enterprise, like between up less than 50 million turnover, 51% Black owned, and then you can be a beneficiary. But if you are just being sponsored for impact, you can just be as anyone from small, big, white, black, any color attached to it as such. So there's different options.
Linked to that question is a question that we received saying, I'm a service provider to the industry, but not Black owned. I am looking for a partner. Can you assist? And if so, can I apply, or must I be recommended by my clients? This goes into the actual process. Maybe this is a good diving point also. How do you kind of get involved essentially?
Yeah, I think let's understand their need, Natalia, and how they will, whether they're looking for to participate in this incubator. But I'd suggest the offline drop. Maybe you'd make my email available at the end of it, or a starter's email, and then we'll set up one-on-one to understand your need. So let me share with you, colleagues. When you're doing enterprise development and supply development, it's not one size fits all. You need to really, really understand the conversation, and what's the needs of a business. Often people might say, oh, I need to get a Black-owned partner. May not necessarily be the case in terms of the development. Every business is unique, and I see 3,000 businesses a year, So, and I know, and everyone is like an MBA case study for me. So, there's different ways to talk about. But if there's anyone in this audience that would like to have a conversation, pop me an email, and I'll set up a quick huddle, and we can understand where you are, where do you want to go to, and whether the incubator could be a landing pad. And even if it's not, I'll hook you up possibly somewhere else.
Question, would one qualify if not VAT compliant? I would assume so.
Yeah, the receiver of revenue is hectic, Natalia. But we don't really ask you for your tax PIN. But, it's generally shown that you're responsible, but sometimes, and I say this respectfully without prejudice, so nobody can hold me against it to me. Sometimes it's draconian, so we don't necessarily say you have to be fully tax compliant. I mean, I chair SAICA, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants Council, which we have 54,000 members, CAs globally, and we know from a compliance perspective how hard it's to deal with SARS. We know the challenges when you're coming out of today, maybe, I think it's like day number 1090 of COVID, you may have not paid up all your VAT and PAYE, and, you're still playing catch up. We've seen that. So answer no. We'll still be able to make someone join, even if they're not fully VAT compliant, both as a funder and both as a beneficiary.
Okay, well, let's dive into, I'm interested, I want to take the plunge. Can you illustrate what that looks like in terms of someone who would be nominating or someone who would be involved from a kind of business perspective, and then someone who's an incubatee?
Okay, excellent. So let's start it first. If you want to be a funder, so you'll drop an email, pick up and say, hey, can I Otto and Otto Akash, because some people want to speak with the CEO. I've learned that in the past. Can we come and have, whether it's virtual, half an hour, 40 minutes, understand our situation in person? And there's a lot of places to touch points now, whether it's WTM or Indaba and, like whatever, or maybe, they want us to come in person. And I've done this, we'd fly around the country, meet you in person if it's required. We can still do it virtually as well. And then in that conversation, it'll be like, okay, let's understand your business. Let's understand where you are, who's your rating agency, how much is your budget going to be, how much do you have to comply, not only to be compliant, but to earn bonus points, Natalia. If we take an enterprise development beneficiary and grow and graduate them, you get a bonus point. If we make sure, we're very smart in what tools we do, in administrating the assistance, then we can grow jobs, and then you get another bonus point or two. I'll share an example. We're running a very large supplier development program for the South African National Blood Services. And in that program, I'm going to show you the quantum of this ecosystem, and it doesn't mean ASATA members are going to get it. We're buying like close onto 6 motor vehicles for them, for free. But that 6 motor vehicles is aligned to what they need. And it's going to create 6 new jobs in about 4 beneficiaries. And, it's automatically going to trigger, that bonus point calculation in many particular instances. So, but I think let's take a step back. If it sounds like something you want to explore, or if you want to learn more, just drop us an email. Let us set up a huddle, even if it's virtual for now. And then if it's sounding great, put your whole management team together. I'll come over and I'll meet with them in person, and we'll draw and come up with a roadmap as to how you go, and we'll guide you through that process. So that's from a funder perspective. Let's take it from the opposite side of it. So if you're a business here, a small to medium business, and you say, oh, how can I get to this school, Model C school? So there's different options. You might get recommended by a bigger brother. If you're working with them, you can nudge them yourself and say, hey, I've heard of this. Are you guys doing it? So that's one option. The other option is periodically in this next 12 to 18-month journey, we'll go back to the CEO, Otto, and we'll say, Otto, we have a funder here, and we've done this many times before, that has no beneficiaries, but they've got X amount of spaces. They've got 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you make a call amongst your members to recommend themselves or individual businesses to participate in the incubator? So there's 2 ways. You can either be funded specifically and recommended directly, or wait for one of the window calls. And typically we'd have about, also maybe, based on past experience, between 2 to 3 of these calls annually that would go out to your broader membership as such. Have I answered your questions, Natalia?
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Kash. And I particularly like, as a business owner, I particularly like your way of unlocking amplifiers, so instead of chasing after a bunny rabbit that's not going to amplify things, you identify the kind of pain point that's going to unlock a whole bunch of things. So that's very clever. One day when I grow up, I will be able to do that too. We do not have any additional questions, but thank you for availing yourself, and we will make sure that we share your details with anybody who is on this call as well. And there's a recording which will go out to the wider ASATA member. I'll give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody else has some last minute burning questions. Otto, is there anything you'd like to add in the meantime?
That's not really, other than to say thank you for the questions and for joining us. And hopefully, there's something that is of interest, or you see potential value for participation. We're very excited about it at ASATA. We think this is one of the big projects of the year, and we are certainly very, very keen to see it succeed and to deliver the value. I am aware that there are a number of non-ASATA members that are on the call today, and thank you for finding the time to join us. And if you are interested in joining ASATA, you're most welcome to do that. It'll be the one way that you could also then actually have access to the benefits of an incubator like this. So feel free to visit our website and you'll get all the details on how to join, and we'll support that process if you have any questions. But the only other thing is then, Akash, thank you. And really looking forward to this journey with you and your team at Sigma. And hopefully, you know, we'll over the next couple of weeks, months and years, we'll start to blow the lights out in terms of really making a difference in our sector, both from an ASATA perspective, but also collaboratively with all the other organizations who have initiated incubators within their own structures. And we have no doubt that we're going to see the kind of overlaps, which is exactly what is intended from this type of model. So thank you. And yes, thanks everybody for joining us.
Great, thank you everybody. As I said, we'll distribute the recording. I hope that what you've heard today will inspire you to make the very practical difference that you can. And I think practical is definitely the word here. It is something that we can all benefit from. And yeah, Akash, thank you again for everything that your team is doing in our industry.
Absolutely.
Great talk, everybody. Have a wonderful one, and we'll chat again soon. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye.